A standard DNA test usually ends with a geographic pie chart. But for those with specific ancestry, that same cotton swab provides the raw data needed to verify a direct link to a lost empire. When Dr. Sudheendra Sathvick submitted his sample to MyHeritage, the lab completely bypassed basic genetic marker checks. They used low-pass whole genome sequencing. This means the sequencing machines read nearly his entire genetic code, roughly 3 billion base pairs, an average of 2 times over, to build a high-resolution biological profile. That massive dataset was then cross-referenced against an international database of over 6.6 million people searching for shared identical segments of autosomal DNA inherited from common ancestors.
This process transforms a medical sample into a readable catalogue of history, effectively indexing centuries of movement within a single strand of DNA. The results returned a highly concentrated ethnicity estimate, 72% Konkan and Maharashtra Brahmin.
The platform then applied a tool called the theory of family relativity. It automatically scans millions of digitized family trees in historical records to find exactly where that specific genetic code appears in the paper trail. By linking these biological matches to census data and birth records, the system turns a static DNA profile into an active map tracking human migration in reverse. The map starts in the present day, in urban Bangalore, Karnataka, where the modern Sathvick family lives and speaks Kannada. Following the records backward through the generations to the late 1800s, the geographic center shifts north to Sangli and Mumbai. The family's primary language changes back to Marathi. Historical records pinpoint the trigger for this mass displacement. In 1818, the British conquered the region during the Third Anglo-Maratha War. This entirely collapsed the local ruling authority. This 19th century push southward into Karnataka was the direct fallout of a dismantled state. It scattered the remnants of its former ruling class across the Deccan Plateau. Pushing the timeline further back into the 18th century brings the family lineage to the heavy stone gates of the Shanivarwada Palace in Pune. Here, the Chitpavan Brahmins ruled the Maratha Confederacy.
They served as the Peshwas, the prime ministers and absolute de facto leaders of the state. The genetic and documentary evidence converge on a highly specific branch. The Sathvick family traces its direct descent to the lineage of Savai Madhavrao Peshwa, who governed the empire alongside the renowned statesman Nana Fadnavis. Under Peshwa rule, the Maratha Empire expanded to stretch from the Khyber Pass to the foothills of Bengal, actively patronizing Sanskrit scholarship, military tactics, and classical architecture in an 18th century golden age. The autosomal DNA sequenced in the lab is a verified living remnant of the most powerful political dynasty on the subcontinent prior to British colonization. Tracing the ancestry to its absolute beginning requires leaving the 18th century palaces, traveling back to the rugged coastline of Maharashtra's Konkan region. Here, genetic genealogy aligns directly with ancient Vedic record-keeping, codified in documents like this Pravara Pramanapatra. This certificate tracks the family's unbroken patrilineal bloodline, the Shalavaatsa Gotra, straight back to 3 ancient Vedic seers, Angirasa, Paurakutsa, and Trasadasya. The origin of these specific Brahmin families is recorded in the ancient Skanda Purana text. According to the legend, the warrior avatar Parashurama required priests for a sacred ritual and found fishermen gathered at a coastal funeral pyre. Through divine penance, he elevated 26 of those fishing families into sacred Brahminhood.
The specific South Asian genetic haplogroup, isolated by the sequencing lab, serves as a modern scientific anchor for an ancient, faithfully preserved origin story.
We snap back from ancient funeral pyres to a sterile laboratory and a simple cotton cheek swab. In this case, the data from a commercial DNA test corroborated both an oral history and ancient Sanskrit texts, using nothing but base pairs.
Whole genome sequencing operates as a permanent digital clan chronicle, a biological archive that cannot be lost, burnt, or rewritten. Our DNA isn't just a ledger of biological traits, it is a direct inheritance from the people who built empires and the families who preserved their stories.
It is interesting to see how a small cotton swab sample taken from Dr. Sudheendra Sathvick's mouth showed his entire ancestry and proved that he is from the Parashurama clan of Chitpavan Brahmin clad.